Are you ready to make 2025 your best year of running yet? Whether you're looking to do your first 5K or your first 10K, half marathon, marathon, or just looking to stay consistent, this year is yours to make what you want of it. But here's the thing, too many runners start the year full of excitement only to burn out, get injured, or totally lose motivation. So let's make sure that that doesn't happen to you. In this video, I'm going to share some tips with you that will help you avoid burnout, will help you prevent injuries, and will help set you up for 2025 to make it the best year you can possibly have. Okay, tip number one, overtraining. It's the fast track to burnout. So I've started with the number one tip because it's so common. It's one of the most common ways to get injured. Is you're full of excitement, you're full of motivation, you start doing lots, you maybe run too many times in a week, you maybe do too much mileage in a week, and all of a sudden 2 to 3, maybe even 4 weeks into your training, you suddenly pick up an injury or you are mentally fatigued because of the workload that you've just started to do. So some simple tips to avoid overtraining are gradual progression. Make sure that you are working through a program, possibly with a coach. It's more ideal because it's more tailored for you. Work through a progressive program that allows you to have maybe every 4 to 8 weeks some kind of deload week where you allow your body to adapt. Make sure that you are getting your rest days in, at least 1 to 2 rest days per week. Rest days are where our body heals and recovers and regenerates and adapts to the training stimulus. And then listen to your body. It is okay if you're feeling some lingering fatigue, or maybe you're feeling a little bit less motivated and you're noticing that something's not quite right. It is okay to go a little bit easier and choose an easier workout. I remember when I first started training for my very first half marathon, I went from not running maybe consistently, maybe 1 to 2 weeks, I went into straight training for 5 runs per week, and I did that for the first few weeks of my training plan. And by the end of the week 3, I was mentally fatigued, I was drained, my body was screaming at me, especially my calves. My calf muscles were shot to pieces, and I had to give myself a 2-week recovery. So it's really important that we get that gradual progress, we listen to our body, and we don't push it too far. Don't make the most common mistake of overtraining. So tip number 2 would be proper pacing. So run smarter, not harder. So talking about pacing, it's tempting to push yourself hard every single run and make sure that you are giving your all to your program. But the secret is not to run hard on every single session. It's very important that we do vary the intensity and the workload that we put through our body, so our body is not getting maximum stress every single workload that we have. So if you want to get the most out of your training, you need to vary the pace that you are running at, and make sure that you are not treating every run as if you are going into a race. How you can do that is with a really simple tip. It's a very common, general used tip. It's very well used in the running industry. It's the 80-20 rule. It's within the fitness industry as well. But the 80-20 rule is a really good rule to use as a generic kind of, I mean, some people will vary within that. It's absolutely, you can vary within it, but 80-20 is a great rule to use. 80% of your training should be at an easy to moderate intensity. So again, you're building a base, you're building a really strong base and not overly stressing your body. And then 20% of your training, your overall workload, should be at a high intensity. So maybe those speed sessions, those speed work where you're working on a little bit more increased pace, or maybe some hill repeat sessions again where it's a little bit more intense. Okay, so 80-20 is a great rule to use as again just that kind of generic rule that you can have in your mind. Try not to go over that. So when I loosely embraced that 80-20 rule and I started to lower the intensity of my easy days and my moderate days, and I actually noticed a significant difference in my endurance levels. I could feel that actually my body was adapting more efficiently, really, and it felt more natural for me to do that rather than just push and feel like I'm pushing a big heavy rock up a really heavy hill because like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling with motivation, I'm struggling to get out, it feels so hard. Why does every run feel so hard? And that's the question I ask myself, and several years ago, I was like, right, this needs to change. Found out that what I was doing, and I was like, oh, okay, that needs to change. I changed it and felt so much better. So use that loose 80-20 rule. And then tip number 3 would be recovery. The secret to staying injury free. So recovery isn't something that you just do when you're injured. Recovery is something that you should actually plan. Now, recovery is the glue that holds our running routine together. And if you're not getting adequate recovery in, then obviously that glue is not going to be there to hold the running routine together. We're going to get cracks appearing and it's going to start to fall apart. So some key recovery tips are, obviously, as you can tell from my channel, try and make sure you're warming up and cooling down efficiently, whether you're stretching or foam rolling. It is essential to work on the muscles that we have been working. So the main muscle groups, obviously, feet, calves, shins, thighs, hamstrings, glutes, and upper body as well. We'll get a little bit of torso work in there. Focus on helping those muscles become less tight and tense and stiff. Recovery also includes fueling your body right. So within an hour of your run or your workout, make sure that you get adequate fuel back into your body. Prioritize protein so that your muscles can repair. And obviously, if you've had a big long run, or even if you've been out for any kind of run, you will need to replenish your glycogen stores. So carbohydrates are absolutely amazing at replenishing our glycogen stores. Sleep is an absolute non-negotiable. 7 to 9 hours if we can, for adequate recovery. That's going to help your muscles repair. As I say this, I've had quite a broken sleep last night because our youngest daughter is ill at the moment and she's coughing her head off and waking us up, and we're having to comfort her. So I haven't had that 7 to 9 hours sleep, and I can actually feel the difference. And I say this a lot, and I probably speak about sleep a lot. As a parent of young children, you will know that the topic of sleep is quite a hot one when you have young children. So 7 to 9 hours, I mean, that sounds amazing. I do try and get minimum 7 hours myself, at least 7 to 8 hours I get probably a night if I can. Those nights, unfortunately, where you have less, I can feel the difference. Again, it's like my brain's a bit foggy, it's a little bit hard for motivation. So it is essential. You can see how important adequate sleep is for repair and rest. And incorporate active recovery sessions. So if your heart rate data metrics are showing that you need to rest more, maybe you've got a run plan that was maybe a bit more moderate, maybe you need to make that an easy run. If you had an easy run plan, maybe you just need to swap the easy run for a brisk walk or a stretching session. It's important that you're adaptable and you have those active recovery sessions. Don't just completely stop sometimes. Rest days are fantastic, but you don't have to completely stop. You can just lower the intensity and be a bit more like active recovery type sessions. So there was a time when I actually remember that I used to think that things like stretching and foam rolling were for lazy runners. That's what I actually used to think. Like, that's just what, those people that choose to do a recovery session instead of a run, they're lazy. I mean, how wrong was I to think that? And now I actually see the value of stretching, of foam rolling, of recovery sessions, again, those lighter, lower intensity days, as part of that whole kind of holistic overview of a healthy running routine. They are absolutely essential. And then tip number 4 would be to go out there and absolutely crush those goals. Put it all together and go out there and hit those goals. So for 2025, what you need is a plan that balances excitement with sustainability, so that you can, again, go out and hit those goals, but also in a sustainable way for your brain, your body, your family, your life. And here's some tips on how to do that. So actionable goals. Set realistic goals. So write it down in a journal, or get yourself a running journal and write down your goals for the year. Write down the big goal that you'd like to achieve, maybe a certain distance or a certain race, a certain event. Write that down and then break it down into small, achievable chunks. So you have the short-term goals, what you're going to do maybe week to month, and then you have the medium-term goal where you maybe 3 to 6 months, and then maybe you have the whole year, the long-term, what you would like to achieve in that long term. Write it down, it puts it into physical, it makes you commit to it a little bit more, and also maybe just put put your overall goal in the comments, and that gives you that little bit more of accountability that you've said it, you've committed to it, and you've put it out in the public domain. And then the final two tips would be together really: track your progress and then celebrate the wins. So tracking your progress is essential so that you can celebrate your wins. So you can look back and say, I've done this and I've hit that milestone and I've achieved this, and actually, well done me, I'm doing okay. So track your progress. There's many ways to track your progress, whether it be with your watch or whether it be with Strava or something like that, or the Nike app. Track your progress and then make sure you celebrate the wins. So again, rather than focusing forwards and I'm so far, maybe you're training for a marathon and you're only like half distance, actually reverse it and look back and go, actually I've come from 10k different distance and I'm at half marathon distance, and that's brilliant, fantastic. So celebrate those wins, and again, tracking progress goes together with celebrating the wins. And for me, I never forget crossing the finish line of that very first half marathon. For me, the half marathon, I've done a video on it. The half marathon was an elusive distance. I never thought that I would be able to achieve that. I had several years of injury and not training right and not running right, and I left it. I left running, came back to it, left it, came back to it. Always wanted to get that half marathon distance and just thought that it would never happen. And I remember crossing the finish line and I just remember thinking, all that effort, all that training, all that pacing, all that recovery that has gone into this, I've done it the proper way, and I could see how beneficial it was doing it properly because it's got me to this point. So it's really important that you bring all of those pieces together, and that will ultimately bring that as one big piece in that overall. When you look back on 2025, it will bring it all together, and you will see actually all of that work, all of that thinking and planning and doing and just having those lower intensity days and active recovery and being on top of it and doing my strength work to keep my body strong, all of that went into making 2025 my best year yet. So there you have it, 2025. Let's make it a really good year for you. Remember that you get your slow, easy runs in, you run smart, and you recover well. It's a really simple formula that you can stick to, and you will achieve good results. So if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, and even put in the comments down below what your goal is for 2025. Again, it's that accountability. Put it in the public domain, so you've set it out there. This is what you're looking to achieve in 2025, and that gives you that first kind of like, this is the level of accountability. Ash and the public have seen it. I've got to start working towards it. Have a look at everything we've spoken about. Right, what does go into that 2025 goal now? And I need to maybe improve my strength. I need to start being a bit more active with my recovery. Maybe I need to back off a little bit on those easier runs. Have a look at it all, and then make, again, a good plan, a good program for yourself, and go out there and make 2025 your best year yet. So now it's time to go out there and make it happen. Let's go.